Welcome to the Crafty Mini, and in this one another product review. So I've been wanting to get my hand on these Villiany Inks for a while now. I like to paint in that sort of grimdark style, that's where I sort of lean towards, and I've been following the Grimdark Compendium for a while now, both their website and their YouTube channel. Links will be in the description to go and check them out. Now these paints have been on my radar for a while, as I say. Finally got hold of them, and I'm going to give them my initial sort of thoughts. I've just unboxed it, recorded this footage, and I'm going to go straight in and talk about them, and then later on we'll do some more videos where I go a bit more in depth with the things that I've learned and stuff like that. So Villiany Inks, these are enamel washes. Some of them they're like what they class themselves as enamel effects, but they're various colours. There's 7 in the core box. Now they're quite expensive, to be fair. I mean, I got a bit of a discount on Element Games, but it was still £80 for the set of 7, so they are quite expensive. And it's the idea of this review is I'm going to look at how they are to use, what's it like, if they're any good as well, and are they worth that price point. Now in the box you get, so I say, you get 7. You get Ichor of the Damned, which is like a black enamel, Carrion Crimson, which is a crimson blood type, Goon's Grime, which is a grime enamel wash, very similar to AK Interactive. You get Sector Rust, which obviously leaves like a rust effect, Coella Green, which is very similar to like that effect paint. The idea is, you get that verdigris colour, Decay of Death, and Dystopian Brown. So you get 7 colours in there, all enamel, and the idea of these is you've put them on top of your base layer. These working as like a filter, but you can still manipulate them afterwards with some mineral spirits. So my initial part now, what we're going to do, I've got these little test bases set up, each with a skull, a bit of texture on there, and I'm going to paint each of them with the colours in the box set, and just to see how they initially come out of the bottle. So all I'm doing is just give them a good shake, as it does mention on the bottles that you need to shake well. On the website it does recommend using a vortex mixer, which I have got, but in this one I decided not to use that and just go for a handshake and just see how they do. Right, so after all having a very good shake and then using the initial colours, just putting a couple of drops pure straight on the base and then manipulating it around with the brush. A couple of things straight away. So the Carrion Crimson and the Decay of Death in particular need a really good shake. I had to go back and shake them again. There's in a lot of these there's like little pigments and little flakes that are part of it, and so it's not that they need to be mixed in, it's just they're part of the actual texture that you can put on the miniature. And I've noticed that the Decay of Death in particular, the Carrion Crimson, they just needed that extra shake just to get those pigments moving. After that they went on really well, really strongly. Out of the lot, immediately out the bottles, the Ichor of the Damned is a really nice cover, and Goon's Grime for definite. Goon's Grime is more of like, they say on their website it's like a unifying wash. It's the one you'll probably use the most of, and then the rest are more for very specific things. Same with the Ichor of the Damned, it's like a really nice black wash. Now anyone who's used like GW stuff or Army Painter and such, like Strong Tone or Null Oil, you'll know that you get it on there, it gets into the crevices, it makes it really punch and show the details, but it stains. Now this stuff does the exact same thing, however, as you'll see in a bit, you can actually then manipulate it again and move it off the top to get rid of that staining effect, and do various other things like streaks and dabs and things, which we'll get into later. But yeah, so apart from those two that I had to just go back and really shake again just to get that sediment moving, so far really impressed with these. They've gone on nicely, some very nice colours. The crimson really does pop. As I say, Goon's Grime is the sort of winner, it's like a black brown. But then if you wanted more of like a sepia, the Dystopian Brown does the same thing as well. Right, so because these are enamel as well, you can blow dry them to get them to dry, and then the mineral spirits will reactivate them afterwards anyway. The working time is realistically, you've potentially got a whole day, if not a little bit longer, depending on what you do with it. Now you see here I'm putting it's just an old brush with a bit of mineral spirit, and as it bleeds in it's sort of moving the pigment, and then I can push it around and get it to go where I want. knocking off the staining on the highest areas like on the skull and things, but you get this nice sort of feathered effect. Now, I've never used enamel washes before. The closest I can probably say is the Dirty Down Rust, because that you can reactivate a little bit afterwards with some water. The one thing I'll say about these is it's a lot more aggressive and you need a lighter touch. You don't want to go in too sort of hard with the brush or Q-tip or wherever it is you're using, because you'll actually wipe away the effects and you'll have to go back in. That being said, these are a really nice way of getting some extra effect and dirt and muck on your miniatures. The dystopian brown was really nice, quite interesting actually, how it sort of feathers as you push it around. And in a moment you'll see the same with Goon's Grime, which is like the, as I say, they market it as the sort of universal wash for everything, and you can see why when it's being chucked around and moved. It's a really interesting method. One issue I suppose is, you know, you start doing this and you've got to let it, that first mineral spirit sort of where you've knocked the top off, you've got to let that dry again. So a hairdryer is probably going to be good. Just quickly blast before you're going again, otherwise you're going to be forever sitting and waiting for the next thing. But yeah, overall quite interesting. I did this mineral spirit reduction with the brush on all the colours just to see how they react. The Carrion Crimson, to come back to that one, those little flecks that are in it that I had to shake up for the initial cover, when you push them around they make some really interesting sort of shapes and colours. It's almost got like a gloss effect within it if you don't thin it too much. So I can see why they, on the the channels and the videos and stuff, they recommend using that for sort of blood effect and, you know, really aggravated skin and stuff like that. The Goon's Grime is a winner straight away for me. It's really nice. It's just a unifying wash and I can see why people use it. But yeah, so we'll carry on with this and then we'll get on to, I'm going to put it onto an actual miniature. Right, so I'm going to use just Goon's Grime on this particular one, just because I want to see how it works as a unifying sort of wash. Now I've got this miniature that I knocked up, a little mini sort of diorama thing of a sister in battle, and I want to see how it goes on a brighter paint. Now, one thing I'll note straight away is I have not varnished these miniatures, and I'm putting this paint straight on. It says you don't have to. I know there's other enamel washes where they recommend a gloss varnish to make it help it run into the cracks and things better. One thing I'll say straight off the bat, this stuff, it goes exactly where you want it. It's really nice. Now in the little dish there is just Goon's Grime, and I've so 2 drops of that to 1 drop of mineral spirits just to make it move a bit more. It's staining everything lovely. You can go in and put some heavy pool in wherever it is you want, in like the really deep recesses, because you're going to come back with to do the reductive technique as they call it anyway. So it's what's quite nice is you haven't got to worry about getting this everywhere and making a mess. And if you've got to use other colours and they run and things, with the other Villiany Inks, that's fine. They all give unique sort of properties. So just slap this on, put it on all over. One thing I noticed with the Goon's Grime as well, there is like the Carrion Crimson and the Decay of Death, there's actually pigment in this as well. So I'm wondering if they're in all of them. And it's sort of like it's got like a dusty sediment, which, to be fair, you'll see at the end leaves a really nice effect in sort of like the folds of the cloak and things, which we'll go through. But yeah, at this point, just get it plastered all over, and then I'll let it dry and go from there. Right, so it's fully dried now. And so now we're going to do the reductive technique. So I'm going to do a couple of different methods. The first one is the standard, so it's a Q-tip. So in this little dish I've got just mineral spirits. Dip it in and you just dab this on areas, and what it'll do, it'll immediately sort of spread and start pushing the pigment. So unlike the rounded of the helmet, just a couple of dabs and it moves it around. In the folds of the armours, all the pigment will rush to there. And you move this around, and what you can do is with the other side of the Q-tip is then start to drag and pull and roll on the actual miniature to get different variations of texture and move the actual the pigment where you want it, and this to get this grime effect all over. So it's actually quite a simple process. It's very accessible. However, to master it, you're going to have to do a lot of practice. That's very apparent straight off. but I don't think it's something that everyone should be scared of. In the miniature painting, it's surprisingly easy to do. It's just, as I say, you're just going to need practice, like with everything, just to get it right. But yeah, I'm going back and forth and moving it around. One thing I'll note is, although you can move the pigment and pretty much remove it to, you know, like 98% of it, it does still stain it slightly. So what I've done is that for the next video, I've got 2 test pieces where I've done a brighter paint scheme initially, then put this stuff on, and I'm hoping that it'll punch a bit more of the colour, because this has really like darkened it down. It does look good, but it's very, very sort of muted colour wise. So at this point I'm now going around and I'm just practicing and just trying different things. So again, I'm using, so the Q-tips are one part's got the mineral spirit on, I'm dabbing it on an area and then turning to the dry side and doing like circular patterns, and it's actually buffing up the sort of the black shoulder pads on the Terminator armour really nice, and it gives a nice, and again it's this whole, something you'll see if you watch the Grimdark Compendium, this whole thing if you want texture variation. So it catches the eye more, and it sort of polishes the armour up and makes it look really shiny. And then around the edges where I've pushed the pigment, it's really grungy and dark, you know, where it's like caked in whatever crud and things that are on the battlefield at that point. Same with the wings on the little angel. You're moving it around and you can get some really nice variation and shading. And again, like I mentioned before, it's just a case of practicing. Just try different things. So, you know, I use a brush for a little bit, I go back to the Q-tip, you know, dab it with my finger, pull and move the pigment around, and it's really surprising when it's dry, the actual finished result, which we'll have a look at now, and I'll give my sort of final thoughts. This won't be the end of this review. I'm definitely going to do another video with a brighter base coat. I've got 2 miniatures that are currently drying. That'll go up hopefully next week, just so you can get a bit more in depth. But as an initial review, these are pretty good, to be fair. I enjoy them, but then this is a paint style that I like to do. These are not for everyone. If it's something you're just going to do every so often and use them a bit here and there, probably not. Or at most, just get the Goons Grime for that sort of unifying wash. If it's something you're going to persevere in and use a lot, then yeah, definitely. It's a lot of fun, and it's quite a refreshing way of painting as well, which is nice, because sometimes you get stuck in the monotony of it all, and then getting inspiration to want to do something can be tough. So this is refreshed the whole sort of painting hobby as a whole for me. So it's definitely something I'm going to carry on with. Price point, although you do get the 7 inks, but yes, you know, at £80 with the discount, it's still quite expensive. So for that, it's really up to the individual. One thing I will say is, don't expect it to be grimdark in a bottle, because I think that's what some people have been sort of saying online, and you know, there's a lot of stuff here you're going to have to take into account, and you're going to need a lot of practice and want to keep persevering with it. That being said, if this is, you know, if this is a style that you want to go for and you're into, then yeah, definitely recommend these. If you can afford it, go for it. If you want to have a bit of fun, but not, you know, not have to, you don't want to do absolutely everything, then maybe just the Goons Grime as a unifying wash, or there's the AK Interactive as well that people have used. But if this is not your cup of tea, then don't do it, because it's going to be a waste of money. For me, it's something I'm definitely going to persevere with. I really enjoy these, and for me, with my style of painting, this is definitely going to add a lot to my repertoire. Also, you know, knowing the price out point, I took the time to save up to get them. I didn't just jump in. I've spent the last sort of 6-7 months just looking at them, watching the videos of the Grimdark Compendium, seeing what you can do with them. So yeah, that's sort of like my initial thoughts. So if it's something you're really going to persevere with and want to put the time into, and you can afford it, go for it. If this is not your sort of style of painting, then don't do it. And this is definitely not grimdark in a bottle. There's a lot of work involved in these. So this is the first part. So I've just done like a basic overview, had a good look at them. The next video, I've got 2 miniatures, and we're going to go full in. So I've done a much brighter sort of paint job, and I'm going to, use different of the inks and just see exactly how they cover. But thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.